are you there? Oh, you see the branding? The sip from the PorterLogic bottle first,
I appreciate the
right?
koozie picture too.
Yeah, we love the koozies. Last night they had the chillin' and fulfilling koozie. Yeah.
You got to bring some fun to warehousing, right?
That's absolutely. We're on board with that. You know, we think warehouses are sexy, right? So that's the thing.
I think so. Nobody else does, but I think they're super cool.
Oh, we do. We have the shirts. We got the Warehouse Are Sexy shirts, man. So definitely. So pleasure to have you here again on the podcast. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
I think we had Anya on recently, but tell us a little bit about, I guess maybe for people that are not familiar, give us a little brief overview of PorterLogic.
Sure, yeah. PorterLogic fixes all the problems that ERPs break in the supply chain. So a lot of times
damn
you have
ERPs.
to have an ERP and it's your finance team, right? And they're great for that problem, but supply chain operations sometimes fall short and you end up with manual processes. So that's what we do. We have a supply chain software platform that plugs in directly to your ERP and makes all that manual process go away. So we're able to save companies a lot of money.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, in that sense too, I mean, you're not replacing the ERP, right?
Sure.
You're just making the workflow better.
We can be the full system of record, but oftentimes we'll sit on top of an ERP or even a legacy WMS or some other system. So, we try and really plug into how your company's operating. That's one of the things that we really push is hyper-tailored to your requirements. And if you want to replace systems, great, but oftentimes you can't or don't want to. So we're able to help there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's such a great thing. And I've seen the demo from Anya before. And, you know, it's very easy, drag and drop, which I think is great user interface and really simple to use. And, you know, kind of levels the playing field a little bit on who can kind of configure some things like at a lower level. Whereas, you know, a lot of times you would be solely dependent on your IT department to make something happen for you, which could, not knocking any IT departments, but can take a while sometimes, right?
Right. And they're chronically understaffed and, never have enough time to do everything they're needed for.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Trying to strike that balance of, giving power to who needs it. We also do a lot of help with our team and, we're there to help companies implement and onboard and get up and running and we train you. So one of our guys has just started doing an office hours with one of our customers.
Oh,
so
nice.
They get to, every Monday it's an optional meeting if they want to come and learn or they have a problem. So we really try and, give people the power and the tools that they need. But then we're always there to help too if needed. And so it's been phenomenal. I mean, doubled the team, they've almost tripled the team in the last year. So a lot of exciting growth. Yeah,
definitely. It's been exciting to see you guys continue to evolve and grow. And I think even, as a testament to that, I mean, last year you guys won best scrappiest startup, right? I think or something. And now you're like the real deal, like best B2B startup, I think, for Atlanta. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, one of the finalists for the best B2B startup in Atlanta. It's just the problem's really resonating. I think that oftentimes supply chain teams are not heard, right? And they feel like that they've been left out and that a decision's been made and they don't have the systems that they need. So I think that as we've continued to talk more to supply chain, I mean, my background's in WMS. We have supply chain experts on our team, and I think that's really, striking a chord with folks. Especially, we typically go after a customer that's around 50 to 350 people or so. So we're targeting a more mid-market customer. That's a really forgotten segment of the market. There's not a lot of software out there for those companies. You either have the SMB Shopify's or you have the enterprise Manhattans of the world, but there's a kind of middle ground that I saw was very underserved and thought that there needed to be a better solution there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fantastic, and it's such a good point. And I talked to a couple people before on the podcast about this, but that is like such a kind of forgotten segment. It's like you come into supply chain with some tech, and it's like you want to get that check from Amazon or Target or something like that. It's like you're not even looking at this market that's there. It's a big opportunity, I think, because like you said, I mean, it's often forgotten and, the solutions are created with like a larger enterprise in mind and it's not as intuitive and things like that. I mean, so it's really great that you're focusing on that. And I'm curious, as you've gotten more traction and more customers too, I mean, what are some of the, maybe some of the biggest call outs on efficiency gains or gains in general that your customers are seeing?
Yeah, we're able to help a lot on the efficiency side of it. We're also able to help a lot on just like real-time inventory tracking. So think about reducing food waste or just being able to track how much damaged goods are, coming out of your warehouse or your production facility. So those are usually the types of things that we're able to help customers with, improving things like resiliency. So oftentimes you have a hacked together system that's built on a bunch of Excel spreadsheets and a legacy system. What happens when something like COVID happens, right? Or even just Suez Canal or any of these things that have happened over the last few years. brittle supply chains break, and having the agility and the flexibility is something that our customers really value. So we're working with a company right now that actually went with us specifically because they knew they were growing fast and they needed a system that could keep up.
Yeah.
They needed something now to do warehousing and inventory. We've actually now added procurement management and demand forecasting for them as well. But then they know that they're going to have additional needs. And so whether that's returns, whether that's order management, whether it's an additional warehouse, they've just opened their fourth facility on the East Coast. And so they're growing and they need something that can keep up. And that's also oftentimes what the SMBs and the other systems can't handle. So.
Yeah, I mean, how important is that, especially because you look at, companies, they can scale like really quickly out of nowhere, right? They get a big client or something, maybe a 3PL or something, or CPG company, and now, they've taken off, and like you said, they're expanding and they need their software to like keep up and do that. I mean, how important is that for you guys to be able to create that easy expansion and easy implementation to be able to keep up and scale with them, instead of looking at a large WMS or something that's going to take, several months to implement and upgrade and things like that.
Most of your kind of packaged WMSs are going to be 6, 12, 18-month projects, and that's difficult, right? That introduces challenges. Your business has likely changed by the time that you're going live with one of those. So, we are able to enable individual logic flows at a time. So our system is built around what we call logic flows. They look like process maps. They're visual configurations, and we're able to turn individual ones on when we need to. So we're able to do things like do inbound receiving go live, and then do a launch with your outbound and your picking, and then do a launch with your procurement team. And so typically we're able to ramp up customers much easier because we're going to say, let's pick this particular pain point, let's pick this area of focus. You may not even actually replace your WMS entirely. We may sit in between it for a time, and then by phase 2 or 3 we've replace more functionality. So typically we operate on a phase timeline of about 10 to 16 weeks. So we operate and that includes a design portion where our team comes in and helps understand what the real problem is. We do an iterative build intentionally to get feedback, and then we do a testing and launch period. So, and we just do that over and over. So, we really want to build that into, let's solve real pain, right? I think that's the thing about supply chain people is like, we're the ones who make so much of it work. And nobody understands what goes on in the background. People click buy on a website and get mad when it doesn't show up 2 days later, and there's an immense amount of people and energy.
How hard could it be, right?
Right.
It's very hard. Yeah, definitely. So it's great that you're tackling that, and you're simplifying all these different workflows and processes, and being able to give people that tool that they can easily scale with. I think is so important, especially in today's environment. So I'm curious too. As you're talking to these customers and you're talking to people at shows like this, what are people saying are some of their biggest challenges right now in their supply chain or within their warehousing and logistics?
Demand planning and demand forecasting is the number one thing we're hearing right now.
That's the hardest thing.
Forecast and know how much, because you've historically relied on a lot of sales data, and sales over the last 5 years have been up and down, and consumer demands all over the place. So that's we've added a demand forecasting module over the last couple of months just because of how much we're hearing it, and I think that it makes sense that you can control costs in a lot of ways with intelligent purchasing and intelligent forecasting. We've definitely seen the bullwhip of inventory, right? You didn't have anything, now you have too much. We're kind of somewhere on the way back down, but companies are still really looking at how do we manage inventory, how do we procure correctly, how do we source correctly, and all of that goes then into the warehouse management side of it, because if you end up with pallets taking up half your racks in the back that aren't moving, like that's a warehouse and distribution problem as well. So it's just all so interconnected. That's supply chain, everything affects everything else, and a late truck or a blowout on a truck could cause a delivery not to show up, and then your production schedule gets off, and then the client or the customer doesn't get their product. So a lot of different pieces. But anyway, tangenting all the way back to your question, people are having trouble forecasting demand and trying to figure out a way to know what to buy.
Yeah, interesting. And I think that's always such a challenge. I do some teaching, and when I tell my students, I'm like, the hardest part of supply chain is planning and forecasting. I'll tell you that right now. So if you want a challenging job, do that.
Predicting the future is never easy, right? Especially like you just, one of our customers, they sell survival food kits, and so they've talked about that their demand is extremely dependent on events. So things like hurricanes will happen, and they will have demand spikes, and that's unpredictable variability, right? So they end up having to carry a good bit of inventory, but at the same time, they're wanting to be intelligent about it. They're wanting wanting to look at forecasts. They're wanting to look at ways that we can optimize this, knowing that they will have to have more inventory than some businesses. But that's what then gets into unique challenges around how can you design a system that works for that business? How can you design a forecasting algorithm or a user interface or a data pool that works for their specific needs? Because forecasting around event-driven randomness is very different than if you had an apparel brand that has a very typical peak season around back to school or around holiday. And so figuring out ways to put systems around your processes, that's a lot of where we come in, where we come from is you have a specific need, and having to force that into a mold or a box of another system, you're going to end up with workarounds, and that's why Excel is used everywhere, and every warehouse has
love
multiple Excel sheets, and it's great. There's nothing wrong with Excel. It's a wonderful place to start, but you do need a system eventually, right? You can't run 100,000 square feet out of an Excel spreadsheet. So.
Absolutely. It gets out of control quickly, right? So very interesting stuff with you, Jonathan, and I definitely always appreciate you supporting and coming on the podcast, and it's great to see all the growth and the awards and everything. Amazing stuff. So if people are interested in learning more about PorterLogic, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can find us online, PorterLogic.com. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out. I love talking about warehousing. I'm the warehouse nerd of the company, so Anya does all of our selling, but I just get to talk to customers, and I love what we do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So pleasure to talk to you. Always good to see you.
So,
love the chilling and fulfilling. So thank you very much for stopping by. Yeah.